Good evening, everyone. Welcome to this extraordinary scrutiny panel meeting this evening. Fire alarm procedures are, if the fire alarm is activated, please vacate the offices down the main staircase opposite the lifts in the foyer. Assemble in Hawley Square on the green, and officers will assist you and advise you when it's deemed safe to return to the chamber. Would everyone please present ensure that your mobile phones are turned to silent and they're not used to make and receive calls while the meeting is in progress. Please note this meeting is being live streamed for members of the public, and this meeting will subsequently be broadcast on the internet. Does anyone intend to film the meeting? And that's a no, and there's no members of the public, so we'll move on. We did have a member that wanted to speak under 20.1, but he's not here, so we'll move on. Item number 1 on the agenda, apologies for absence. I've got Councillor Dabrow and Councillor Wing replaced by Councillor Garner. Any more? Nope. Okay. Any declarations of interest?
Yes, Chair. Items 3 and 4 declaring interest in, please.
Thank you, Councillor Patman. We'll note that. Item... I'm to ask you, what is the nature of your declaration?
I have done the online form. It's a conflict with my work.
Okay,
So,
thank you.
do you need any more information than that?
No, that's fine.
Thank
We'll need to...
Okay, so they're saying you have to leave the
Okay,
chamber.
that's fine,
Okay,
yeah.
okay, thank you. Okay, moving on. Item number 3, the purchase of 5 homes at Reading Street, Broadstairs for affordable rent. I call on Ms Jackson to introduce the report. Good evening, Ms Jackson.
Good evening, thank you. Council has recently approved an accelerated affordable rented housing development programme of at least 400 new homes to be constructed or acquired by 2027. Officers were contacted by Millwood Homes, who are required to deliver 5 affordable homes as part of their development at Reading Street in Broadstairs. This requirement is set out in the Section 106 obligations for the development. They have been unable to secure an affordable housing provider to deliver these homes, and we have seen evidence of that. The capital cost for the 5 homes is £800k and £50k for associated costs. On paragraph 2.5 of your reports that you would receive, there is a slight difference in the cash flow deficit from year 1. It should read 8.1 with a break-even point in year 13. As the homes have been designated as affordable homes in the planning consent and Section 106 agreement, they have been designed specifically for that purpose and accordingly are considered appropriate for the HRA in line with the needs of households on the council's register or those living in temporary accommodation. There is a significant level of need for 1-bed homes as well as larger family homes. The unit sizes and mix of dwellings are as follows: 1 1-bed flat, 1 2-bed flat and 3 3-bed houses. It is proposed that the new homes are let in accordance with the council's adopted allocations policy at affordable rent. That's it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Members, any questions for Ms Jackson?
I'm happy to speak on it if you'd like me to beforehand, but otherwise...
Would you like to speak now?
Yeah,
okay, go for it, yeah.
Thank you, Chair. So tonight, members are being asked to consider and respond to the proposal going forward to Cabinet regarding the purchase of 5 homes at Reading Street, Broadstairs. The purchase of these homes is part of our accelerated housing delivery strategy, ensuring that Section 106 homes are delivered and that the social housing that we are entitled to as part of developments comes to fruition and does not disappear when this is the housing that we need above all else. As this is a revenue strategy, it has already been established that the HRA will benefit from these acquisitions. The capital cost for these properties is £800,000, with £50,000 provided for associated costs. As Ashley has said, this provides 1 times 1-bed flat, 1 2-bed flat, and 3 3-bed houses. Very importantly, this provides social housing in an area of Thanet that is often inaccessible for renters. Property and rental costs in Broadstairs are significant, and acquiring social housing within Broadstairs is often challenging. Ensuring that all of our Isle is accessible to residents is incredibly important, and local individuals and families should be able to remain where their local connections are. Acquisitions such as this support that aim. Thank you to Ashley for her work relating to this proposal. In an ever-increasing property market, being able to deliver genuinely affordable properties that would otherwise have been lost is essential, and being able to deliver them in an area that is often harder to access for those on lower incomes is incredibly important. I'm more than happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Whitehead. So, members, any questions? Councillor Faruqi.
Thank you very much for this. I'm just passing on a question for one of my residents, really. I absolutely see the need for a mix of dwellings, but some of my residents who are squeezed into, a family squeezed into flats on Innsmouth Avenue are asking about why there are the mix of the one bedroom, of the one person accommodations. I was just wondering how you have come to that understanding about the need for the one for accommodation for one person, if that's all right, so I can answer them.
So the need for one beds is significantly higher than for family properties. So as Ashley was saying, when we purchase properties or look to purchase properties or look to develop, we're always looking to reflect the percentages within the housing list. So actually our need for one beds is very, very significant. We do often hear from families who do need to expand, but actually our primary need, I think, at the moment is for one bed properties. Thank you.
Members? Councillor.
Thank you, Chair. Thanks, Ashley and Helen. Could you just talk us through the table under 2.4 where we've got the income and then the revenue costs, the different aspects of that? Could you just tell us a little bit more about that? I'm interested particularly in the management contribution. I know it's not a large amount, but I'd just like to know what sort of thing it covers.
So I'll take that question if that's okay. So obviously we put this table together for, we're going to be doing something similar to this for every property that we, or every scheme that we propose through this programme. It basically, it's a summary of the impact on the Housing Revenue Account business plan of taking these properties on. When we brought the report to full council, identifying the overall impact of the 400 homes programme, we had assumed that scale of growth in the housing portfolio would require 2 extra officers to provide housing management services and maintenance services. And obviously every scheme that we then produce makes a contribution to that. At some point, we will have to make the decision to recruit to one or both of those roles. So far, with the numbers we've taken on so far, the team have absorbed that work, but at some point they won't be able to, and we'll need to recruit some extra officers.
That's great, Bob. Thank you.
Anyone else? Councillor Bright.
Just a couple of questions about the builds themselves. I've got some social housing in my ward that I think is relatively new, and it's not council owned. It's other social housing or affordable housing, and the standard of it's pretty shoddy. I know that this particular development looks like it's a pretty high standard. So I'm going to ask 2 questions around that. How closely do we monitor the actual standard of the builds? So, i.e., the walls are straight and doors fit, etc. And also, are they sustainable housing? Have we got points in place to sort of future-proof against sustainability goals?
Like you said, this developer is particularly a good developer. We're confident that the builds will be pretty great. They will have all their warranties. They will be snagged by us. We will do visits throughout, and then when practical completion, obviously there will also be a retention as well for the year afterwards, where we can have any snagging issues.
On the second part of your question, I'm happy to come in on that because we have discussed putting together a specification that reflects what we expect of our housing and what we work to produce, so that we know that we are acquiring properties that represent the values that we want to put forward and the requirements that we have for our residents. So that will be part of the programme going forward. Thank you.
Anyone else? No, I have a question, actually. Hello? On 2.4, 2.1, it says officers were contacted by Millwood Homes, who are required to deliver 5. Is 5 the development? Is that what it had to be? The maximum is 5 there, or are there other ones that they need to? Are they managed to offload some and with?
2 shared ownership. So the whole affordable amount is 7. So they're in partnership with Halo Housing to do the shared ownership element.
Okay, so is this now going to become an issue for all developers that are unable to offload their affordable housing? I mean, obviously, we can't go around cleaning up and buying up all the houses. I mean, you've got developments going on all over Thanet. I mean, if Millwood Homes can't offload their superior quality houses, I mean, are other developers having this problem as well?
Yeah, I mean, personally, I think it's the number. Because today I've heard that one of the other sites that we would potentially might need to look at, they've actually secured an RP. So that's really positive. It's a new registered provider to the area. We're not going to compete with an RP. If someone's going to take it, then, but there's more units there. So that's why I think potentially the 5 is a bit tricky.
Okay, thank you. Okay, members, we're...
Thank you, Chair. I was just wondering, do we have a timeline of delivery?
They are due to start on site shortly, so it'll be a 12-month build, and we'll monitor it. We are in the process. We're going to be recruiting an officer that will monitor that build as well, ready for handover.
Okay, thank you. So members were asked to make any recommendations to take forward to Cabinet. I presume there aren't any, so we're asked to note the report. So noted. Thank you. Okay, moving on to item 4, which is the Local Authority Housing Fund, round 2, the purchase of 5 homes. I call on Ms Jackson again to introduce the report. Thank you.
Thank you. In March 2023, it was announced that the Local Authority Housing Fund would be expanded by 250 million for a second round of funding. Thanet has been identified as eligible for capital grant funding with an indicative allocation of 694,000 in funding to purchase 4 homes for the resettlement element and 1 home for the temporary accommodation element of the funding. In order to utilise the grant, it was necessary to match fund the acquisitions with £788,860 of borrowing within the HRA capital programme. This will be presented to Cabinet on the 16th of November. The properties have been identified and the purchases must be complete by the 31st of March 2024. Business plan modelling shows that the scheme generates a surplus again from year 1 due to the grant subsidy. This surplus could be used to subsidise other parts of the Affordable Homes programme. It is proposed to let the homes in line with our tenancy strategy. Discussions have taken place with the local developer currently developing the Westwood Cross site to purchase 5 3-bed homes. The units will be off the shelf with no refurbishment or adaptations needed. They're nearing completion and will be ready soon. The developer has accepted a provisional officer subject to approval of 1.4 million. This is 80% of the market value. We have run this through our business plan modelling and the scheme generates a surplus for the HRA business plan from year 1. The proposal will be presented to Cabinet at its meeting on the 16th of November and the report will recommend that Cabinet approves the use of the £694,000 grant funding and £788,860 match funding from the already approved HRA capital programme to purchase the 5 units for the Local Authority Housing Fund round 2. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Members, have you got any questions? Oh, Councillor Whitehead.
Thank you, Chair. You're being very indulgent and kind. Tonight, members are being asked to consider and respond to the proposals going forward to Cabinet regarding the purchase of 5 properties using the Local Government Housing Grant. This is a grant that has come before members before. We applied for and were granted 1.19 million in the first tranche of this grant to provide homes for those who arrived in the country via the following approaches: the Afghan Citizen Resettlement Scheme, which includes eligible British nationals, the Afghan Relocations and Assistance Policy, the Ukraine Family Scheme, Homes for Ukraine, and the Ukraine Extension Scheme. In this tranche of funding, we have been granted £694,000. Through this, we intend to provide 5 homes. 4 must have at least 3 bedrooms, and 1 is required to be used for temporary accommodation. As with the previous tranche of funding, the timescales are extraordinarily tight. In order to deliver the homes required in the period given, direct purchase is the only realistic way forward. As members will know, this aspect of funding frustrates me hugely, as it does limit our creativity and provision, but the net result remains the same, namely that we can support those who need our support at an incredibly difficult time for the allotted time they are allowed to remain by central government, and not only grow our general portfolio, but also support the growth of our housing overall. These homes are significant not just in what they can achieve in supporting those who have experienced war and displacement, but also in what they can do to support other vulnerable residents. Due to the scale of this grant and its provision of 46% of the overall cost, the rental of these properties produces a surplus from year 1, as demonstrated by the provided graph. This is especially significant as part of our strategy, as it provides a revenue stream to not only offset borrowing to produce the 400 plus properties that we are producing for general usage, but also to support further housing acquisition and production. It is rare that both moral and financial benefits align. This is one of those rare cases. Life often calls on us to do the right thing for others. This moral imperative runs through every decision that we make as a council, and is especially pertinent here. But to be able to provide for even more residents, specifically through fulfilling our moral duty, is a circumstance that rarely appears in local government. But this strategy allows it. A huge thank you to Ashley for all of her work on this, and we welcome any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Whitehead. Members, any questions you'd like to make? Councillor Austin.
It's not a question, it's really a well done everybody, and that sounds fantastic. But I particularly like the comment about the moral and financial aligning, because you're right, it very often doesn't, but it's great to see it happening here. Thank you all.
Councillor Bright.
Just a quick question on the placement of these homes. Are they, obviously they're all within the Westwood development, are they all sort of clumped together, or are they scattered throughout the development? I'm just concerned, I'm slightly concerned that for the residents that they might be slightly isolated if they're all from one specific community and they're isolated within, you know, how well integrated are they across that particular development?
Yeah, they are all together. They're on the section that's being completed at the moment. I think it's phase 3. When I spoke to the developer, I didn't ask to have them kind of scattered all over the area, just due to management. I think it's easier for us if they're all together, and I also think the communities would rather be together as well, to be honest.
I understand that. Is there anything that we've got, have we got sort of a, I think I asked this before actually, I'm getting deja vu. Do we have some sort of community liaison that helps them sort of settle into the kind of so they can be part of the wider community?
We're currently funding a Ukrainian support officer. She's actually, her role is to deal with families who are experiencing trouble with their housing, but specifically she will be able to support these households, and I suspect she probably already does, to be honest. She has her in her, and not in her role at TDC, she does a lot of community work with the Ukrainian community, so I'm sure she's probably very well informed.
Thank you. I'd echo Councillor Austin's words. Thank you.
Councillor Austin.
And I just add to that that the Ukrainian support officer is somebody who is at linchpin of the Ukrainian community in Thanet and incredibly well networked. So she's a real treasure and a real benefit to the community.
Councillor Davis.
I'd just like to say how much I welcome the initiative. With regard to whether the units are together or segregated at Westwood, I'd just like to say that my personal experience, and I am surrounded by a particularly well-integrated group of working Eastern European various nationalities. They choose to live almost communally because it gives them that network and support and comfort, and we have a very comfortable existence with them, and they're a joy to have there. So I think having them together should actually help bond them rather than isolate them. So.
Anyone else? Okie dokie. So do any members have any recommendations you want to take forward to Cabinet? I presume that's a no, so we're asked to note the report. Okay, so we'll ask Sir Packman to come back and join us. Yeah. Okay, moving on to item number 5, which is the extension to the Alcohol Public Space Protection Order. So I call on Ms Joanna Taylor to introduce the report. Welcome to the meeting.
Thank you and good evening everyone. So we're here to look at a 9-month extension for the Public Space Protection Order, which regulates alcohol consumption within the district. The PSPO has been in place since 2017 and it was renewed in 2020, and so it's due for renewal again. It runs for 3 years. So it was introduced to tackle antisocial behaviour and public disorder related to alcohol consumption in public places, and this was originally requested by Kent Police. This includes street drinking, public intoxication and disturbances caused by alcohol-related activities. The PSPO has been successful in reducing these issues and improving the safety and well-being of the community. However, during COVID-19 pandemic, it has created new challenges in ensuring compliance with the PSPO. With the relaxation of lockdown measures, there has been an increase in the number of people gathering in public places, and this has led to more incidents of antisocial behaviour and public disorder related to alcohol consumption over the last 3 years. Since January 2023, the police have issued 23 fixed penalty notices under the alcohol PSPO. This may seem a small number, and it may query the need of a PSPO. However, as part of the PSPO, education is also in place. Alcohol confiscation and disposal of alcohol is also in there under the powers, so it can be dealt with without the need of a fine. To address these challenges, we are requesting an extension of the PSPO for a further 9 months. The short period of 9 months will then bring it in line with the antisocial behaviour PSPO. So in July 2024, we will look at combining the antisocial behaviour and the alcohol PSPO, and that's due the very end of July. During this time, we will continue to monitor the effectiveness of the order and assess the potential for any necessary adjustments to ensure it remains an effective tool in regulating alcohol consumption in public places. We will also continue to work closely with Kent Police, who actually issue the fixed penalty notices for us, and other partners to ensure consistent enforcement of the order. We are all committed to creating a safer and healthier community for our residents and visitors, and we believe extending the PSPO will support this.
Thank you, Ms Taylor. Members, Any questions? Councillor Austin.
As usual. One of the questions I was going to ask Joe was about numbers, and you've come up with something there about the numbers of notices. Have you got any data about the numbers of individuals that have been worked with during this period? Because obviously if a lot of it is education, it's presumably not going through the formal process.
It's not going through the formal process. It's about council officers and police officers having the conversations. What is the impact that that person's having? They need to stop. If they don't stop, then a fine is issued. Majority of the time, somebody stops because they've got a police officer in front of them.
Have you got information about what numbers of people that have been worked with in that way? Is that something that's not tracked in that sort of way?
They don't record it.
Okay. Can I ask something else? I also wanted to ask about supposing that we as councillors, as individuals, are out and about and we see, street drinking going on. What action would you recommend we take?
If you see antisocial behaviour with regards to drinking, you can contact the police. Yeah, straight through to the police. They can issue the fines. Some council officers can also issue fines, but then it's about availability coming out at that time.
So you'd recommend going straight to the police?
Yes.
Councillor Cupp.
Thank you, Chair. Good evening. So it's one of the options for the recommendation is to delegate any minor amendment of the PSPO to the Chief Exec. So what would normally be classed as a minor amendment? And also, sorry, I know it's very technical, sorry. And do you know of any minor amendments that have been put into place since it's came in 2017 at all?
No minor amendments have been done since it originally came in. When we say minor amendments, it may be slight changes on locations. It's a really difficult one to say because this one it's district-wide and it's quite a basic PSPO. So the likelihood of minor adjustments would be extremely slim.
Councillor Moore.
Yes, thank you, Chair, and thank you, John, for your report. We just alluded to contacting the police. That's on a 101 or a 999 call?
101. Unless it's an absolute emergency, you need someone there straight away, then 999.
Councillor Faruqi.
Thank you. I've lost count of the number of 15-year-olds I have come into A&E who've kind of collapsed, had needed CT scans because I found them they've been found passed out or have seizures or alcohol-related issues after a night out. Do the fixed penalty notices also, are they also applicable to underage drinkers? How are we working with those people? Because those are the ones I've actually seen who've actually come in with medical emergencies, for example.
If we're aware of they're coming in for medical emergencies, then no, we wouldn't. It has to be linked to antisocial behaviour, or we think antisocial behaviour is going to happen. We don't like finding somebody who's under the age of 18. We find other routes. We can give a community protection warning. We can speak to parents. But asking somebody who's under 18 to pay a fine is probably not something they're going to pay. So we do go down other routes, but we wouldn't find somebody just for underage drinking.
Understood. And I'm not actually talking about someone who's actually been unwell, but in that peer group that they're in, because that's, those are the ones who have gone out and then sort of abandoned their friend in the middle of the street and kind of staggered home. So is there any way of approaching those, or it doesn't really apply?
We would approach it in other ways.
Okay.
If we know there's a problem in a certain area with underage drinkers, then we would approach it in different ways. We would look at youth services, outreach workers. If it was a significant problem ongoing, we may we definitely speak to parents. We would look at enforcement action. We would look at court action if it became a continued problem. So we go down lots of different routes.
Councillor Davis.
Very much welcome your extension to the order, Joanna. A couple of questions, because obviously the PSPO hopefully is having an impact, and it's not necessarily about the number of tickets issued, it's about how many people have been dissuaded perhaps by the chance of a ticket, or indeed have agreed to pull their drink away, because I've witnessed that plenty of times, and I don't know if that's ever logged as a statistic, and probably isn't. So, but clearly the system works, but enforcement resources, as ever, are probably the issue, because there's hot spots in. I mean, listening to Councillor Faruqi, the issues in Broadstairs clearly a little bit different to, say, in Ramsgate Town Centre, where there are hot spots where the hardcore street drinkers keep gravitating, it's antisocial behaviour, however you choose to colour it. Firstly, do you think the situation will be better served because we've moved away from the PSPO model and now got beat officers with warrant cards who can probably enforce this better than the previous model? And also, given that a lot of the time the issues are in public areas, the small parks or courtyards, and also town centre, given the identity is well known of some of the individuals that are repeat offenders all the time, would CCTV count as evidence to take action and issue them with a fine? Sorry.
That's fine. I'll cover your first one first. It is a lot easier having the beat officers there. They do get to know the individual people as well. They get to know the area, they get to know the hotspots. Having beat officers there is an awful lot more effective for the location, but also us as officers as well, rather than having the real mix. With regards to the second point and CCTV, I'd have to speak to Eden about the CCTV and can it be collected as evidence. I believe it can, but when it comes to issuing a notice, the person who's issuing the notice has to directly see the behaviour in front of them. Difficult, I know, yeah.
Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thanks. Anybody else? Can I just ask a question, Ms. Taylor? On 2.2 it says the council continues to receive a number of complaints. Are these any particular areas, or the regular areas that we know of, or is it just sporadic across the areas?
It is a mixture of areas. I think we probably know them. We obviously have Margate, we have Ramsgate, and Broadstairs is also on the radar.
Do we do anything to try and mitigate the issues? Maybe if it's somewhere they congregate with benches, like removing benches to stop that sort of behaviour, or is it just too many areas to deal with?
There is an awful lot of areas, and designing out crime is a big element of reducing antisocial behaviour, and we do work with open spaces and minor works with regards hotspot areas. Can we remove shelters? Can we remove benches? Or not completely remove them, or just move them down the road? Do we chop back a tree because it's getting in the way of CCTV? So there's lots of little things we can do when we design out crime.
Thank you. Okay, members, we're asked to make any recommendations to Cabinet. I presume that's a no. So if we're asked to note the report. Okay, and that concludes the business for tonight's meeting. Thank you, members, for coming along. Thank you to officers and Cabinet members. Thank you.